Welcome to Inclusion Revolution here on Eastlink TV. I'm your host, Tova Sherman, and I'm very pleased you could join us this week because we have a very important topic to discuss, youth living with mental health challenges. And we're very lucky to have Andy Cox here because Andy Cox is an advocate for mental health youth working through the IWK. So welcome, Andy Cox.
Great to be here.
Andy, before we go any farther, and I completely ruin your title, can you first tell me if I said that right, and if not, please clarify the role that you play, you know, obviously at the IWK Health and Addictions, I believe, services.
Yeah, it is a unique role, mental health advocate. I work in mental health and addictions. Our programs, we have 15 to 20 programs, residential program, day treatment, inpatient psychiatry, crisis, etc. And my role, I'm available to all those programs to work with youth around any rights issues they're having, say on the inpatient unit, or any complaints or concerns, helping the youth be part of their treatment team, being unequal to the clinicians. I also help the youth navigate any systems. I help them hook them up with community resources, and I do systemic advocacy as well.
Can you explain what systemic advocacy is, just so that we're all on page?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I mean, I love working with youth, but with mental health being you know, it's kind of behind the other illnesses, catching up. There's a lot of work to be done. So I'm involved in committees within our hospital, in Nova Scotia, but also nationally. I'll give an example. We have a new Mental Health Commission of Canada, and the main goal is to just redo mental health services in Canada and make it right.
That's a pretty broad mandate. Yeah. And has this committee been going on quite a while?
Mm-hmm. We were first, it was formed in 2007. A lot led up to that. But we started with 3 priorities, one being a national strategy. We were the only G8 countries not to have one, so national strategy, redoing mental health. Number 2, a 10-year anti-stigma campaign. Another one is we have a mental health homelessness project. We're trying to create a what we're calling partners, so like a social movement like some of the other illnesses have to not just raise money but awareness and fight stigma. Yeah.
That's exciting. So you really are everywhere in a sense, you know, hands-on both in what you've now identified as systemic as well as hands-on directly with clients. Yes. So that's pretty exciting. Now, as an advocate, what is your responsibility or role if a young person has been, well, first of all, how does someone find you, I guess, and then we'll talk a little bit about what they're going to find when they find you.
Right. Okay, first I'll talk about the program in general. If a youth needs help, we have a clearinghouse where they can phone 464-4110 and they call, or a parent or a doctor teacher calls. An assessment takes place over the phone, and then they hopefully the youth is referred to the right program. I kind of as an advocate, I kind of help us when the youth get into the programs. I make sure you know, the rights issues, the you know, any issues or complaints. If say a youth maybe doesn't feel like they're in the right program, I try to help them to see if that's the case or not.
A lot of mediation in terms of the institution and the individual and their family. So there's a lot of mediating between that, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's great. I'm part of the IWK Mental Health and Addictions team. But I'm also advocating for the youth because I'm kind of in between, and that works. That really
pretty exciting stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
Really. At least I hope so.
Yeah, it is,
yeah. Oh, good. I'm glad. I hate to go you going on whatever. So,
yeah.
But I know that's not the case with you. Now, Andy, as a person myself who lived with mental health growing up and was often stigmatized as a result, I'm particularly fascinated in what where, if at all, your efforts lead or touch on the issues of stigma, because I know you're dealing with the age that's certainly experiences it. I know for me, high school was hell. So, and anyone who went to high school with me, you know why. So, but it was really hard for me. And I wonder what, if anything, you're able to do in that role that affects that, or if that's just outside the realm of what you do.
No, I work with youth if they feel that they're having a hard time getting back into school and discriminated against. Mental health is still, people are being discriminated against. Getting back into universities, I help with that. Schools in general, universities, we have quite a few new initiatives, and one being we have a chair in adolescent mental health, Dr. Stan Kuchar, who's doing a lot of work in schools. Yeah,
that's great. So it's getting in different places, and you've been really in that sort of core piece of folks that are making that happen, and that again is pretty exciting. Yes, so I'm pleased. So now let's go to the point where there is a young person who requires the services of you potentially. They're not even sure if it is you, and their first steps, what would they be if we really want to get started on the road to health?
Right. So getting the help is what I mentioned, the central referral, getting into the system. Finding me, any youth can give me a call if they feel like they're not getting appropriate service or not getting timely service. Any issues at all, then I'm very. As
long as it's under the mental health and they're under 19 umbrella, you're pretty good to go.
That's right. I don't have to. They don't have to go through the clearinghouse to see me. Yeah.
Understood. Well, that's good to know how accessible you are. You better be careful, but that's good. I know you're busy, so we've just opened that right up.
Yeah.
But that's wonderful. Now, for you yourself too, because what's interesting to me is you did develop this idea of a mental health advocate and take it to Addictions, IWK, and Department of Health, and they really thought it was a worthwhile project and said go for it. What brought you to the place? Because I mean, we all want to make changes in the world, but we don't always do what we need to do to make those changes. And one of the things I'm really interested about is you become a hero in the sense that people who say we need to change this, and there's people who say we need to change this, and this is what I'm going to do.
Right.
You're one of those, and that fascinates me greatly. So how did you get from mental health youth aren't really getting what they need, which I've certainly felt a long time, but I'm not sure I've done, certainly I know I haven't done what you've done in terms of saying, what are we going to do about it hands-on directly?
Right.
And you have. So let me ask you, what got you to that point that the rest of us are sitting around going, something's got to be done, but we're not doing it?
Yeah. Real true passion for mental health. A couple of reasons. Was working in the community, working with youth and mental health. Realized how the system is behind right across Canada, mental health and addictions. But a big thing, myself, I live with bipolar disorder, so I know what it's like to go through, the mental illness, the stigma, and accessing services. So that's what drove me to write the proposal and really drove me to get it.
And I want to give you a lot of credit because you and I both know in the business to have two people sitting on television and discussing their own mental health is very unusual, and it's really the exact stigma that we both want to bust. And I think there's no better way to bust the stigma than say, hey, that's me too. And I'm a working, functioning, I'm a guy who's changing the world, Andy Cox, and yet, we all live with our disabilities and we embrace them. We don't pretend they're not there. We don't hide them, and we certainly don't let the shame that people give us be carried on by ourselves. That's my big thing. So I really think disclosure is incredibly important. So first of all, I want to congratulate really both of us for saying we know that that's important, but now that's why you did it. It must be an incredible support to the youth you work with to know you get it on that level as well.
It is.
I know that would mean a lot to me, to be honest.
Yeah. Peer support is huge. Going through something that somebody else has gone through, period, but also mental illness, because it's such a hard journey, the stigma, in accessing the system.
Right. So it's just really nice. Then there's people who go, I get it, let's talk about it. And that would make you so much more accessible on so many more levels. And that's why you're definitely the right guy in the right place as far as I'm concerned. I want to talk a little bit more about what happens when someone does get connected with you and some of the many ways you can support them. I mean, we've talked generally about advocacy, but I'm not sure that everybody quite gets what that means. So what I'd like to do is to give you a chance to think about some of those specific things you do while we're going to take a break. But I also want to make sure everybody knows that, and that I said it right, that you are a mental health advocate in the Mental Health and Addictions program at the IWK, and it is a role you developed in '04, and now you're in there making a difference to a lot of people's lives. So when we come back on Inclusion Revolution here on Eastlink TV, we're going to hear more from Andy about the specifics of accessing Andy and the many supports he can help you access. And in order to do that, I'm going to ask him some pretty probing questions about some of the things he does without, of course, getting into anything confidential. But I'm really interested if you can take us through a process perhaps of someone anonymous like myself, or not so anonymous, and what some of the ways you could support us could be. So we'll be right back after a very short break with Andy Cox from the IWK. He's a mental health advocate, very rare to see, and someone we all want to get to know a little bit better. We'll be right back.